Part 2, English in a Blaze, kids. Professor Thomas here. Let's continue on with rule number 11. It's the PUPS rule. PUPS rule tells us it's the video from what happened to Mr. Spups, the purple puppy, remember, in Shenzhen, China. We have over here, you see that we have PUPS, pup apostrophe S, and PUPS apostrophe on the outside. So starting up here, you see that this little mini name tag looks like a miniature name tag, and that means there's possession. No mini name tag, no possession, it's just plural PUPS. Here, there's possession, and here there's possession. All right, now what we do is we take our finger, cover up the apostrophe, and you look to the left. You see it? It says pup. That means there's one pup with possession of whatever is to the right. Here, you put your finger over the mini name tag and look to the left, and you see it's multiple pups have possession of what comes to the right. All right, listen to the two sentences and understand why they're doing this. Ready? Sentence number 1 here, the pup's paws are brown. And sentence 2, the pup's paws are brown. They sound exactly the same, but they're doing something totally different. In sentence number 1, the P-U-P apostrophe S, the pup's paws are brown. It's one puppy, which is singular, owns his own paws. Why? Because there's 4 of them. Over here, it's the pup's paws are brown. I put my finger over the mini name tag. I see to the left, it says pups. That's plural. 2 or more. The pup's paws are brown. More than one pup owns the paws. Plural possessive, singular possessive, no possessive, dealing with an apostrophe like a mini name tag. Let's take a look at the examples. A, the purple pups in the parking lot are playing. Here you see that there's no mini name tag, so that means there's no possession. Do pups own the parking lot? Nope. See why? No apostrophe, no mini name tag, no possession. B, the purple pup's tail is long. Here you see there's a mini name tag, there's possession. We put our finger over here and you see what we have left is pup. A singular pup owns a singular tail. See it? One pup owns a tail, and that tail is long. Does a pup own a tail? Yep. Good going. Let's go ahead and take a look at C. C says the 3 pups' paws have bare claws. All right, so mini name tag possession. Does multiple pups, P-U-P-S, own multiple paws? Yep. Plural singular, possession, and no possession. Now, kids, this is something here I want to talk about real quick. It's something called a double plural, all right? So from this example up here, you saw that when we want to make something plural, what we do is we simply just put an S on the outside, right? We have P-U-P, pup, that's singular. How do we make it plural? We throw an S on the outside, right? Pups. Now, sometimes we're going to have a singular word that actually means plural, and these are just some exceptions. You're going to run into about 4 of them, all right? So here is a single word that means plural. People, keep in mind that the singular version of people is person. Children, that's the plural version of child, and men is the plural version of man, and women is the plural version of woman. All right, so on all of these examples, you would put your mini name tag here with the S because this is already plural. Mini name tag here, mini name tag here, mini name tag here. Go ahead, take a note. PUPS rule. Mummy wedges. What the heck is a mummy wedge? A mummy wedge is something that you separate the noun and the verb with, okay? So we learned in the first video, it's in, of, and with, okay? So if you come over here, you're going to have your noun, and you're going to have your verb, and then you're going to separate it with a bunch of junk. But this is very important. Make sure that you don't put commas before and after that like Mr. Chung, all right? This is basically the same thing as Mr. Chung, comma splices or dashes, or brackets or parentheses, but you don't need to put the punctuation in there, all right? Mr. Chung, comma, a man from Hong Kong, comma, is funny. Cross out the middle. Mr. Chung is funny. That's the noun, Mr. Chung, and is funny is the verb, all right? What we're going to do now is we're going to use a mummy wedge, and the mummy wedge is extra non-essential information that you can cross out between the noun and the verb, all right? So common mummy wedges that you learned right away are in, of, and with. That starts an extra bunch of garbage, okay? So that means that you can actually cross it out. Garbage, what do you do with it? Get rid of it, throw it out, all right? Then we learned something called the bee in the bottle concept, all right? If you take a bumblebee and you fly a bumblebee around the bottle, and think about location, you're going to see that we're going to learn more mummy wedges. That's called mummy wedges level 2. The bee around the bottle, the bee on the bottle, the bee under the bottle, the bee across the bottle, the bee flies to the bottle, the bee flies from the bottle, the bee on top of the bottle. Just think of the bee and the bottle, on, around, to, from, and so forth. All right. So we've got mummy wedges level 1, which is in, of, and with, and then more mummy wedges can be located by just thinking about a bee and a bottle and location. Mummy wedge is just basically one small word that starts a bunch of junk. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look over here. Here's our example. Sarah, that's our noun. And then it says is. That's our ghost verb, and our verb is running, all right? So what do? We separate the noun away from the verb, all right? The word with is mummy wedges level 1, all right? We can cross it out, with Nikes, all right? Now let's read the sentence. Sarah is running to the track, all right? Does that make sense? Here's the noun, here's the verb. Now, sometimes you're going to run into a position where we have a mummy wedge, which is extra junk that we don't need. It's just helping you understand what the heck they're talking about right before. With Nikes gives you like a mini definition of the word right before. Sarah. Make sense? All right. Now, if you look, we have a mummy wedge here. It's level 2, the word to. The bee flew to the bottle, all right? To the track is extra non-essential information. We can cross it out. So now when we get rid of both mummy wedges, look what happens. The sentence is so much easier for you to read and understand. Sarah is running. Done. Boom. All right? You can use this technique in reading comprehension to analyze sentences. You can go ahead and use it in rhetorical skills of the ACT, and you can go ahead and use it in the mechanics when you're plugging in stuff in and out instead of focusing on the grammar rules. In particular, what you can do is cross out stuff and then convert over to use your ears and see which one sounds better. Remember, when you use your ears, it makes sense that if your sentence is shorter, your ears are going to be more accurate because they're able to focus in on what's important. If the sentence is long, you get distracted with all kinds of junk. All right, let's take a look at example 2. Calvin from Minneapolis is sitting around the campfire. Calvin is our noun. You see that mummy wedge is level 2. From Minneapolis is going to be our mummy wedge. We can cross that out. Who's Calvin? A kid from Minneapolis. Boom. All right. Is sitting. That's our verb. Ghost verb. And sitting is our actual verb. All right. Now you see that we have mummy wedges level 2. Around the campfire gives you more information about the word right before it, which is talking about sitting. We can go ahead and cross it out. Calvin is sitting. Done. Boom. Mummy wedges, kids. Go ahead, take a note. Fruitsies, fruitsies, fruitsies. Kids, do you remember this crazy movie? Fruitsies and the Derailed Train Conundrum. What? What the heck is that? All right, so going back to the basics, whenever we have one comma, you know that we have the ground rule is the abandoned boxcar. We're going to have an independent clause, then we're going to have a dependent clause, all right? We've learned that the dependent clause is there simply to provide more information, like a miniature definition of the word right before the comma, usually is going to be a noun. Then we learn that dependent clauses are not really that important because we don't really need a definition all the time. So we can cross it out. So what do we have left? When we cross off a dependent clause in a sentence, we have the train stands alone, which is the independent clause. Make sense? Now, a fruitsy in the movie was some crazy kid who took a purple Tootsie Roll called the Fruitsy and threw it in front of the train. When he threw it in front of the train and put it on the tracks, what happened? It got derailed. So What happens when we throw something in front of an independent clause? The independent clause gets derailed and turns into a dependent clause, all right? So now all we have to do is figure out what we throw in front of an independent clause that derails it to make it a dependent. Wait, it's a fruitsy, kids. A fruitsy is one word that we throw in front of an independent clause and it throws everything out of whack. It changes it into a dependent clause. Let's take a look at our example. Ishita likes the color pink. You see that this is an independent clause, it stands alone. Now, if we take a fruitsy and throw it right in front of that independent clause, watch what happens. Common fruitsies, by the way, as, if, and when. As, let's try that one. As Ishita likes the color pink. You see it? It throws everything out of whack. If Ishita likes the color pink, when Ishita likes the color pink, you see how now this changes, it gets derailed and changes into a dependent clause. So kids, be aware, if you're labeling your sentences in the English grammar independent and dependent, be aware, fruitsies could throw you off the train tracks. Whoa! Kids, rule 14 is dare at temple there. Remember Henry, our little friend, the vampire bat? This is just flat out memorization of these words. The word there, and there. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. There is a place. Go over there. Their is plural, possessive of things or people. Their bags are sitting on the floor. I'm talking about the people. Let's talk about cows. Their tails are long. It's plural possessive. It could be animals or objects. And THEY''RE stands for they are. And this is somewhat informal, so please take note of it. It's got a contraction here. So if you're going to use something like this or anything else with a contraction besides the its or the apostrophe s in the PUPS rule, those are exceptions. If you're talking about contractions or you're talking about its or apostrophes, that's something different. Remember, contractions are informal. So when do you use them and when do you not use them? I would just simply look around at the rest of the passage. If you see stuff in the non-underlined portion that's using apostrophe s's, then I would choose that. Otherwise, I would have an answer choice that says something like they are. All right, makes sense? All right, so let's go back over here, take a look at one last thing real quick. You're going to come over here and you're going to see that we have there, which is plural possessive. So what do we have if it's singular possessive? All right. If it's singular possessive and we're talking about animals or objects, we would use the word it. All right. It has a long tail. Their tails are long. All right. So it's going to be singular possessive. If you're going to use plural possessive, you'd use this particular one here. All right. Makes sense? Dare a temple there, kids, and our friend Henry. 15 is the pruning technique. Kids, remember the crazy movie at Harvard, The Mystery of the Precariously Propped Prunes? Well, pruning means to cut stuff out. So what do we cut out? We cut out anything that's a dependent clause. It could be on the front, it could be in the middle, or it could be at the end of our clause. All right. Second thing that we can do when we prune is we could prune off Mr. Chung junk, or we could prune off Mummy Wedge junk. All right. Mr. Chung, comma splices, what's between the commas, extra information that we don't need, we can cross it out. Mummy wedges is like stuff like in, of, and with. Those words start extra garbage, separates the noun from the verb, and we can go ahead and cross it out. Let's go ahead and take a look at example number 1 here. It's dealing with in 2019. Here you'll notice that there is a comma right here. If we read from the beginning to the comma here, you'll see in 2019. That's a dependent clause on the front. Also deals with time. I call it time dilation. Usually when you start off with a dependent clause in the front, it's going to have something to do with time. Not always, but I'd say probably 90% of the time. So just get it out of there. When you cross it out, it's going to make the sentence shorter. All right, now it says, Prof. Tia Vidina went exploring to find an arrowhead, a thing that is very magical. A thing that's very magical, that's a mini definition and a dependent clause of the word that sits right before that. We've seen that in abandoned boxcar. We can cross it out because it's dependent. Prune that off. All right, so when we prune off the dependent clause in the front and the back, now look at how short that sentence gets. Prof T of Edina when exploring to find the arrowhead. All right, now wait. That's a mummy wedge of Edina. Let's cross that out. All right, Prof T when exploring to find the arrowhead. All right. If you wanted to take it one step further, you could go ahead and knock off some of this crazy stuff dealing with mummy wedges level 2. You see here we have the word 2, which is mummy wedges level 2. Let's cross that out. When we cross that out, the goal is in pruning to get it down to the independent clause that stands alone. Still complete sentence. Prof T when exploring. Here's the noun and here is the verb. Now, when are we going to use pruning and why is this important? So first of all, in the grammar, there's a lot of rules, kids. You started to realize that after we started doing these Blaze videos. There's a lot of stuff, usually about 22 things that you're going to have to know and you're going to have to memorize. All right, so what you can do is you can go ahead and prune stuff down to the essence of the sentence and then kind of just see which one sounds the best. Use your ears. That's a fail-safe mechanism. I prefer if you understood all the rules in general, but this is going to help you when you prune stuff down to the essence of what it is. You're going to see that the answer choices that you're going to select have something to do that are a little bit more relevant to the noun and the main verb. Kids, hey, it's the it's rule. Definitely don't get this confused with the pups rule. Wait a second. Shh. What's going on here? Kids, don't get left behind getting confused between the it's rule and the pups rule. These are two totally different rules. Let's go ahead and get started. First things first, you're going to notice that we have the stuff it's versus the pups rule. It looks almost identical. Remember, it's a totally different rule. You have to memorize both of these rules separately. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first one. The first one is ITS. It means an animal or an object with possession. The second one you already know. It is. Whenever you see this one, just make a note. Instead of saying it's, just say it is. If it sounds right when you say it is, then that's the correct usage. If it sounds weird, it is going to be the other one up here, kids. All right, and make a note, this is just trying to confuse you with the pups rule. There is no such thing as an ITS apostrophe. That's a different rule. Whoa! That's the pups rule. So, kids, now, if you can just remember that ITS apostrophe does not exist, we simply have ITS and IT apostrophe S. Well, it's quite easy. If you always say it is when you see IT apostrophe S, then that rule goes away. Now, over here, the confusion, pups, this is plural, no possession. This is a mini name tag, singular possession, and this is plural possession. Possession always occurs on the right-hand side. The pups ears. Do pups own their own ears? Yes, they do. All right. This is going to be one pup, and this would be multiple pups. And here you would see that you'd have to have this match by having ears because multiple pups cannot own one ear. That makes sense? It's the it's rule, kids. Make sure you don't get passed by getting confused between it's and the pups rule. Kids, let's take a second to review a couple rules and combine them to make it easier. First of all, hazy. Remember that rule? That rule says don't be ambiguous by using words like it. Also, some words that might be ambiguous and kind of hazy, you're not really sure what's going on, is these, them, that, those. All right. These words are really not very specific at all. All right. Now, when we combine that with the razor blade, which tells us we want stuff that's super simple. All right. What we want to do when we combine them is we want to make sure that we're as short and simple as possible, but make sure that we're specific enough so we understand what is actually being said and trying to be conveyed in the sentence. All right. Short and simple, but not hazy. That's the concept for rule number 17, hazy versus razor blade. Kids, it's rule 18. It's just a simple clarification to make sure we're on the same page. First of all, we're going to be talking about the razor blade rule, simple is best, versus the anti-razor blade rule, which means the longest is best. Now, I know this gets a teeny bit confusing, so let's go through it. Razor blade means simple is best when we're dealing with the mechanics and usage section. That means short questions produce short answers. Short questions just have the answer choices, and there's nothing at the top called the question stem. All right, does that make sense? Razor blade, short and simple. Okay. Now, anti-razor blade means these questions are long and they come from the rhetorical section. All right. So it may say something like the author is considering rewriting the sentence to make it a bit more descriptive. All right. When you see a question stem plus your answer choices down here, and it's asking you to rewrite the sentence or to describe the sentence or do something to make it more visual, that is a rhetorical skill question, and that means we're going to use anti-razor blade. So what does that mean? That means make it long, all right? So anti-razor blade means make the sentence longer and more descriptive according to what they tell you in the question. And in the mechanics and usage, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we keep the sentences short and simple and concise, all right? Razor blade versus anti-razor blade, kids. Just a quick clarification. On to rule 19, it's structural clues. How do you know if it's structural clues problems? I just simply just look at the answer choices. In the answer choice, we're going to have these words like therefore and no change, however and be, moreover, and for instance, okay? So that's a structural clues hint for you. Now, what we're going to do is when we look at our answer choices, we're either going to label them together or opposite. So I usually just abbreviate it just by T or O, okay? So basically these two clauses, you're going to see how they're linked together. All right, answer choice A has the word therefore. That's going to be together. It's a conclusion. So you say something and then you conclude off of the same direction. Let me give you an example of the difference between together and opposite. All right. So the first thing is, let's say that I give you a sentence that says Jimmy can run fast. Okay. I use the good stinky rule along with this rule quite a bit. So that's positive. And then it says whatever is here. And then it says he won a gold medal. Well, running fast and getting a gold medal are both two pluses, so I know that whatever I choose for my structural clue is going to have to be T for together, all right? So that would mean therefore would work, okay? And then answer choice B, however, that's going to be opposite. Moreover is together, and for instance is also together. So you see how right away, just by labeling this, you can get one or two of the answer choices out right away. All right, let's take a look at another option, some answer choices that might be opposite. So remember, you're basically comparing the two clauses right before the underlying portion here contains a structural clue. Okay, I like hot dogs. It's a phrase I like to use quite a bit. Okay, when I like them, that's positive. Then blank, it says they're not healthy. Not healthy is going to be negative, so I know that the two clauses are going opposite of each other. So when I come over here, I know the answer on that one is going to be answer choice B. All right, make sure that you read the clause before and the clause after and see how they're related. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at one last thing. All right, if you see words like for instance or for example, these words are going to start off and they're going to be very general, okay? And then they're going to move into something more specific. So if you write this down in the notes down over here, this will be helpful. All right. Jimmy is good at sports. Good at sports. Sports is general. For instance, he's good at tennis. All right, tennis is a subcategory of sports which is specific. For instance, and for example, would work in the exact same way. All right, now if you look over here, you're going to see that we have the word moreover. So if we break the word down, more, over, more of the same thing. I like hot dogs. Moreover, I like Oscar Mayer hot dogs. Oscar Mayer hot dogs are more of hot dogs. You see how that works? Makes sense? All right. Then if you come back over here, you're going to see the conclusion. The conclusion, they're going to say something and then they're going to make a teeny bit of a jump from the premise to the conclusion, all right? So they're going to just make a tiny bit more reach, okay? So we have therefore and we have thus, okay? Some words that might go opposite that you don't see on this particular list here, words like but, yet, however, although, those are pirate flags from the reading section, and word nevertheless. Structural clue, kids, remember you got to look at the sentence or clause before the underline as well as the sentence or clause after.